All right, setting myself into room mode so we can keep the climate control on because it is cold outside. And here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, and today we are doing the very first standalone video, like fully focused on and dedicated to this Rav4 Prime video that we have ever done here on this channel. And I have saved the honor of doing that for our 2-year in review. We have owned this car now. It's unbelievable to be saying this, but we have owned this amazing little Rav4 Prime for 2 years. We bought it around this time of year, back in 2021. And for those 2 years, it has been a daily driver car, and we absolutely love it. So since we are coming up upon 2 years, or actually just past that, I thought I would do what I've done with all of our other cars and do a 5 likes and 5 dislikes kind of video about this absolutely amazing little plug-in hybrid crossover. So as I do with all of these videos, on screen here, you will see my 5 likes and my 5 dislikes, and you can use the chapter toggle that is down below in the play bar or the chapter listing in the description below that to jump and skip around this video. So without further ado, let's dive into all of that. Now, you'll have to pardon me. I will be looking down at my phone periodically throughout this video because this car is all about the numbers and all about the facts, and I have them all written down so I don't get them wrong. So pardon me if I'm not looking at you the whole time and I am reading things off my phone. So let's go ahead and dive in with my first like, and that is that to me, this is the best value in the entire Toyota and Lexus plug-in hybrid vehicle portfolio. Now, keep in mind that here in the United States, we do not get, so for my international viewers, we do not get vehicles like the Harrier plug-in hybrid. We also don't get things like the Crown Sport plug-in hybrid. Both of those of which I would love to have, but we don't get them here. On the Toyota side, we actually only have the Prius Prime plug-in hybrid and the Rav4 Prime plug-in hybrid. Now, for 2024, the base SE trim starts at $43,000, which I agree is a lot for a RAV4, and it is considerably more expensive than what this car cost when we bought ours 2 years ago, and we'll get to that in my very first dislike in the second half of this video. But even at $43,000, I still think that's a relatively fair price to ask, given that the next vehicle in the Toyota Lexus North America portfolio that is a plug-in hybrid is the NX 450h Plus, which starts at $60,000 and is closer to $65,000 when equipped the way that I think most people would want an NX equipped. And then after that is the RX 450h Plus plug-in hybrid, which actually, unlike the TX 550h Plus plug-in hybrid, the RX plug-in hybrid uses exactly the same drivetrain. Everything is identical in the driveline with this RAV4. So in your $75,000 car, you're essentially getting the same drivetrain out of a $35,000 car, like what we have here in this RAV4 Prime. And on the low end, we do have the Prius Prime, which just came out for 2023. And admittedly, that is an amazing car. However, the problem, in my opinion, with that Prius Prime, at least for 2023, is that you can't get any kind of all-wheel drive system on it, so it's always a front-wheel drive only car. And then the Prius is a great car. We owned one and we love it, and you can do a ton with it, but it's still just not as practical as this RAV4 with all the cargo volume and all the passenger volume that you get in a crossover versus what that really is, which is a hatchback. So all in all, again, this is an amazing value even at today's prices. Now, even more so for us, though, this was an amazing value because back in 2021, we paid about $31,000 for this SE after getting $10,000 off the car in the form of a $7,500 tax credit and an additional $2,500 rebate, which is, again, a $31,000 is essentially what we paid for our 2023 Prius as well. All right, guys, here we are out on the road for my second like about the Rav4 Prime, which is that this is a prodigious power maker. One of the headlines when this car first came out was that it was the second fastest thing in the Toyota lineup behind only the Toyota Supra, which is quite an achievement. This car does 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, and it is properly quick. So here we are at the tollway entrance that I always take you on in these videos. I've got the car in hybrid mode and sport mode. I'm gonna come out right here and then punch it. And there's 60, just like that. And And there we are crossing the toll barrier at miles an hour. This is a fast AF car. And it's one of the most fun things about this car, truly how fast this little $30,000 ordinary, mainstream, compact, high-bid crossover can move. I'm gonna slow it down before I get a ticket, but like, you're hitting 100 in no time in this car. And the funny thing about the way that this car delivers its power and makes its power is it's not just fast in hybrid mode where it can do that 5.5 seconds 0 to 60. It's also really quick in EV mode because the motor generators MG1 and MG2 in this car, plus the much larger electric battery that we have in this car versus your standard RAV hybrid or your standard Prius, can really get this car moving even when the gas engine has not kicked on. It's absolutely wild. And like, I mean, it throws you back in your seat anytime you get on the gas hard. It's just so much fun. And I have had so much fun smoking people off the line in this car. And the look on their faces when this little teeny tiny RAV4, okay, it's a RAV4, you know, it's not an AMG car, it's not anything like that. This teeny tiny little RAV4 just goes woo right off the line, and then they catch up to you at the next stoplight, and they're like, huh? It's just, yeah, this car moves. It can almost be dangerously fast, I will say that. For this car, if you give this thing too much gas, I'm going to put it back in normal mode now, and we'll put it back in EV mode since we're done having our fun on the freeway. There are certain situations where this car will easily go sideways, especially on the stock tires that it comes on, because I think the stock tires, we changed ours out for Michelin cross climates, but I think the stock tires or eco tires or something as well, and that of course means like zero grip, you know, zero anything like that. That said, okay, moving on to my third like about this Rav4 Prime is, you know, once you're done smoking people off the line and having your fun on the freeway and doing 60 in 5.5 seconds, the other really interesting difference about this Rav4 Prime over any other Toyota hybrid, over the NX hybrid, the Prius, the standard Rav hybrid, is that this car, when it's in eco mode or normal mode and you're just driving it, you know, like you normally do, this is one of the most refined Toyota products out there, even though it has the A25 engine that I've complained about a lot on this channel and other cars. When you're in EV mode like we are now, and you can probably see it in the camera that's looking at the energy monitor, and you can probably hear it, there is no noise in this car at all. No engine noise, no NVH. And that's the thing that I actually do really love about electric cars, is that generally speaking, they are more refined than an ICE car because you don't have an engine making all kinds of noise and vibrations. The interesting thing about the Rav4 Prime, however, is I'm going to put this back in hybrid mode now. So as you can probably see in the energy monitor, the engine is on and it's providing power to the wheels and driving, you know, the vehicle here, and still you barely hear it. And I think it's because with this car and the bigger electric motors and the bigger battery and all the additional power that the electric vehicle system, the electric drive systems in this car can make, the engine is not having to work nearly as hard as it does in a standard hybrid Toyota. And so it's not screaming and roaring and making all of its unrefined, just unpleasant noise that, for example, I complained a ton about in the RX hybrid and in the NX hybrid as well. This is as refined in hybrid mode as any of the V6 and V8 cars. Like, it is as refined as another car that I'm driving at the moment, and it's as refined as the GX. There's not as much sound insulation in this car as those others, but in terms of just engine noise and NVH from the drivetrain and the drive systems in this car, it is as refined as any of those larger engine cars. And that is really a testament to what can be done when you have an engine that doesn't have to work as hard. All right, moving on now to my fourth like, and that is that this Rav4 Prime is truly, and I can attest to this, again, now having owned this car for 2 years and we've taken this on many, many road trips, this is an amazing all-distance cruiser with a spare tire in the back, which is becoming a rarity even on regular standard hybrids from Toyota without the plug-in hybrid drivetrain. This car still has both. Now, the world seems to be split between people who think that plug-in hybrids are either the best of both worlds or the worst of both worlds. If you talk to an EV person, they'll probably say to you, why would you buy that plug-in hybrid when you could have a full EV for the same price? And they're not wrong. Especially with the XSE version of the Rav4 Prime, you are in the mid-50s and you can absolutely get, I think right now, a pretty nice Model 3 or Model Y for that same price. The problem with EVs, even Teslas, in my opinion, and we've driven Teslas up and down both coasts. I love the supercharger network. I have nothing against Tesla cars. The problem is, regardless of what EV you have and what charging network you are relying on, whether it's the supercharger network or EA or there's still a lot of immature infrastructure that needs to be overcome by EVs and their drivers on long road trips. What I mean by that is even with the supercharger network, which does work really well, and I've never had a problem with it in my experience using it, you still have to route yourself differently and follow a very specific route in certain cases to be able to hit the right superchargers in the right order at the right time to maximize your EV range and your battery capacity and all this kind of thing. With the Rav4 Prime, on the other hand, you don't have to do any of that real specific routing and mapping and waiting and charging and all that kind of thing when you go on a road trip, because unlike an EV, this car can run as a very efficient, very ordinary hybrid vehicle. So you get the in-town EV daily driving that you would get also in an EV, but when you decide to go on a road trip, all you have to do is put the car in hybrid mode, make sure your tank is full, and you can go on any route to any place, anywhere you like. And all you have to do is find gas stations along the way to fill up your tank. So I think until our infrastructure reaches a point where it is more mature and where you don't have to compromise and wait for charging and stand in line for charging and all the kind of things you have to do today, plug-in hybrid vehicles represent, again, the best of both worlds, and I think will be probably for the next at least 5 years, a really amazing value proposition for most people. Right, and on to our fifth and final like about the Rav4 Prime, which is truly how easy it is to integrate this car into your lifestyle without making any big changes. Now, if you talk to an EV person, they will tell you that you need to know all these different terms like EVSE and state of charge and charging curve and all that kind of thing. And rightfully so. If you were to own an EV, you absolutely should know what all that means and how all of it works. But the great thing about a plug-in hybrid is all you really need to know if the Rav4 Prime is going to work for you is whether or not you have a standard household outlet somewhere in your garage that you can plug your EV included EV charging cable into. This is all you need to have to integrate the Rav4 Prime into your lifestyle. And it's so easy, in fact, that all we have to do, so this is what you do at the end of the day as you get home from work, is take your EV charging cable, and we have ours very elegantly mounted on this piece of scrap wood from Home Depot. Take your cord and your charger and bring it out to the car. And the great thing about this is actually where we park our Rav4 Prime. And you can have this out in the elements, even in the freezing and in the rain. All you do is unlock the car. You're going to open your charging port here. And that is all you need to do to own the Rav4 Prime. As long as you do this every day and you plug it in and you can wait between 6 and 12 hours before using the car again, you too can integrate the Rav4 Prime into your life. It is quite literally that easy and that simple to own this plug-in hybrid. And the same thing is true anytime you go anywhere with electric vehicle charging. Although you don't have to charge, much like an EV, if it's available, all you have to do is take your nozzle, plug in your car, and away you go, charging until you're ready to leave onto your next destination and get a little bit of electricity for a little to no cost, especially if you have a membership like we do to ChargePoint. So there are 5 likes about our Rav4 Prime over 2 years of ownership. This is truly an amazing, amazing vehicle. And if you can get your hands on one, buy it. And I know that that's hard still in certain places and in certain markets around the country and world, but if you can get your hands on one and you think that this might work for you, just buy it. And if you don't like it, you'll be able to flip it for probably exactly what you paid for it, if not even more than that. So yeah. But now, because my videos, I feel very strongly I have to give you equal parts good and bad, let's go ahead and move on to my dislikes about this Rav4 Prime. 2 years in, what do I not like about the Rav4 Prime? Starting with the fact that the Rav4 Prime has really gotten quite expensive over the past couple of years since we bought ours, and I don't think that it has the goods to show for that substantial price increase. I don't think Toyota's done enough to justify how much they've raised the price. So back in 2021, when we bought ours, this is a base model SE and was $38,000 MSRP. And after the $10,000 of incentives we got, we were looking at essentially about $31,000 out of pocket, out the door, which made this little thing an absolute no-brainer. Today, however, the base Rav4 Prime SE, so exactly this car, but the 2024 version, which is current of this car, is $44,790, including destination. And even though most people won't necessarily pay that MSRP because of incentives and tax credits and all that kind of thing that you can sometimes still get in certain places on PHEVs, even if you could get the same $10,000 of incentives that we did off the price of that car, you'd still be looking at $36,000 out of pocket, out the door, which is $6,000 more than we paid 2 years ago. And with the current limitations set on financial or federal tax credits and things like that here in the US, here in my state, what I personally, like what our household qualifies for, we don't qualify for any of the incentives anymore. So we would actually be paying that $44,790 or roughly $14,000 more for a 2024 SE. If I were to go to the dealership and they were to give me one today, I would pay $14,000 more than what we paid for this one that we're sitting in right now. So because we paid $30,000, I'm literally paying 50% more for the same car in 2024. Now, with that $6,000 to $14,000 increase for the 2024 versus our 2021, you do get some nice additional equipment, including the new all-digital gauge cluster, which we don't have. You also get the newer Toyota connected infotainment system, which you guys know I love, and I think it's great. And most importantly, though, for plug-in hybrid vehicle owners, you also get the standard 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger, which we do not have. We have the 3.3 kilowatt hour onboard charger. But all in all, even with all of that considered, the digital gauge cluster, better infotainment, 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger, etc., I still don't think it equates to that $6,000 to $14,000 price increase. You absolutely need to be able to get some kind of incentive and take some of that price increase off the sticker price on the 2024 Rav4 Prime. All right, moving on now to my second dislike, and this is less of a dislike and more something that you just have to be aware of if you're going into the purchase of a new Rav4 Prime at this point in time in 2023 to 2024. So this Rav4 has really been out since the 2019 model year is when it came out. The Rav4 Prime didn't come out until 2021, but this overall generation of Rav4 is getting quite long in the tooth, and I would hazard a guess that we'll see an all-new, thoroughly redesigned Rav4 in the next 1 to 2 years. So the thing to consider is if you are putting your deposit down now, or you're on a waiting list for the Rav4 Prime and you have had a deposit down, when you get your car, let's say that's midway through 2024, okay? What if a new Rav4 comes out at the end of 2024 as a 2025 or 2026 model? Now you've got maybe a year or less with your current car being the newest generation. For some people, that's not a big deal. They don't really care about that. They could drive this all day long for the next 10 to 20 years and be fine. And I fully support that. I will not be buying a new Rav4 Prime when the new one comes out because I will not be able to get one for the $30,000 I paid for this one. So the wheels are going to have to fall off this car before I will let it go. And you'll actually see in my next video, which we'll talk about at the end, I'm holding onto this car, again, for as long as it will run and as long as I can keep it maintained. But, you know, when a new one comes out, the plug-in hybrid drivetrain could be hugely improved over this current generation of Rav4 Prime. So keep that in mind. If you're going into the purchase of a new Rav4 Prime in the next year, this generation is on its way out, and I know some people are already saying that the looks are getting long in the tooth. I actually quite like the way that this car looks. I wouldn't change anything about it, and I will be quite happy driving this even when a new one comes out. But again, something to keep in mind. All right, here we are back out on the road for my third dislike about the Rav4 Prime, which is that although this is a prodigious power maker and it can absolutely do the speeds and it is faster than a base Porsche Macan, this does not have the engineering of a base Porsche Macan, or any Porsche Macan for that matter. And the problem with that is you end up at these speeds and you end up capable of these kinds of wild speeds that this car can do, but there's none of the suspension engineering underneath this car to support that. So again, as we were driving around earlier, you would hear that tire squeal coming off the tires when you would, punch it right off the line. And even, taking curves, like we were just on that off ramp there on the tollway a minute ago. This is a fast car that was never designed to go this fast. And no additional engineering was really, done to the Rav4 Prime to handle all the power. And so, like I said earlier, there are a lot of times in this car where you can end up very easily in a very uncomfortable situation. And those situations can be fun in, fast sporting and race cars that are designed to go that fast and have the engineering and the suspension and everything underneath it to go that fast. But this is not one of those cars. And so you really have to be a little bit more careful about how you wield your power that has been bestowed upon you by this little Rav4 Prime. And this car can get squirrely at certain times. If you take a curve, if you take too tight a curve too hard, that's how you end up in one of those uncomfy situations. All right, guys, moving on now to my third dislike about the Rav4 Prime, and that is that, much like the 2023 NX350H that we had earlier this year, at the end of the day, both those cars, and of course the Venza and the regular Rav standard hybrid, are compact crossover vehicles. And what that means is that there's a finite limitation on the amount of space for both passengers and cargo in these cars. I get a lot of people asking me, can I realistically do either the NX350H or this Rav4 Prime as a vehicle for my family? And what I always tell people is that I think you can do this as a family vehicle if you have two really young children, 1 to 2 really young children, because the thing about this Rav is it's great for, again, a couple. So myself and my partner, that's really all who's ever in here. And normally it's just one person because this is a daily drive it to work kind of car. But when you start having kids and start adding that to the equation, especially when your kids get to school age, okay, and they're playing sports and they're carrying around their friends and carrying around their sports equipment, the cargo area in this car is a pretty good size, and the Rav4 is the largest in terms of interior volume in this segment. However, I still think you might really want to look at a Highlander or an RX or something a little bit bigger to have more of that room. And with the Highlander, of course, you can also have a third row seat. So if your kids have friends, if they're taking their sports team around, anything like that, you can carry people when you need to beyond the 5 seats that you have, just normally in the car. The other thing to watch, if you don't need a third row, is that Crown Signia that was just introduced. So I know a lot of people will want to buy the Rav4 Prime because they want the plug-in hybrid drivetrain, and I totally understand that. It's a great drivetrain. The thing to watch is that Crown Signia could very easily come with a plug-in hybrid drivetrain right out of the RX 450h Plus. So that is absolutely something to keep an eye on in the coming years. If you don't need to buy a car right this second that fits more people and more stuff, I would really wait to see what Toyota does with that, or again, consider that RX or a Highlander. All right, moving on now to my fifth and final dislike about the Rav4 Prime. And this is a recurring theme that you've probably seen coming up again and again throughout the course of this video. But that is that buying this Rav4 Prime, or anything with a plug, forget the Rav4 Prime, buying any kind of plug-in vehicle today, whether it's full EV or plug-in hybrid, unfortunately has to be all about the numbers. And what I mean by that is I see a lot of people out there on forums and such that go, I want a Rav4 Prime because, you know, I want to have the special one and I want 302 horsepower. And that's not the right way to, you just can't look at plug-in hybrid vehicles and EVs that way. So the thing about a Rav4 Prime that you have to really, really be honest with yourself, okay, about if you're considering buying one, is the numbers have to work for you. So like I said earlier, while I love this Prime to pieces, I would not buy one without incentives on the hood. I just wouldn't, because I don't think it's worth it. And at the same time, again, why are you going to buy something? It's like buying an appliance that wouldn't fit in your house, or a piece of furniture that wouldn't fit in your house. If I didn't have, you know, reliably a place to plug in every night, and I didn't have the ability to plug in here at home, I wouldn't have bought one of these. I would have saved myself the approximately, where's my number, approximately $9,000 I would save by buying a hybrid SE at $35,520 versus the RAV4 Prime SE at $43,000, whatever, $790. $9,000 savings, okay, that you could save and get about 90% of the same experience of this car. Then, of course, there's the EV driving range that you'll do. These are great for people who can keep their their daily driving range under 40 miles an hour, because that is essentially, you can, if you drive it really nicely, you can get nearer to 50. But there's so many things that impact the EV driving range in one of these cars. And so I always figure that I can do about 40 to 45 miles on EV only range. But if your commute is longer than that and you can't plug in at work, so let's say your commute is 30 miles each way to and from work, that's a 60-mile total commute. 20 miles every day is still going to be done on gas power in hybrid mode. Is that worth paying $9,000 more for a RAV4 Prime than a non-Prime Rav? I don't know if it is. So numbers have to work for you. Cannot stress that enough. And I'm going to wrap it up there. So thank you guys so much for watching another video. We are in December, you guys. We're in the home stretch. The holidays are right around the corner. This is my favorite time of year. I love it to pieces. And to end the year with a bang, with a really special vehicle, I have one more video that I need to shoot and edit here in the next couple of weeks. But we are going to be taking one last visit to a car with a 2GR V6 engine. And you guys know how much I love that engine. And I cannot wait to show you what that car is, show you the engine, take you for a drive, and then I think we can put the whole 2GR V6 to rest, because it is going away. So anyhow, that's all coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching another one. If you want to write something to me that you don't want to leave in the comments, I have an email. You'll see that here on screen. Email me anything you'd like to know. If anything in this video is too confusing or you don't get any of this, feel free to email me. I will try my best to explain in further detail, you know, anything that I talked about here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Have a great one and take care.